Hey everybody, welcome to the show. Coming up, we're going to discuss our experience at D23's Attraction Rewind event last week. Plus, we discuss your comments and Facebooks, as well as our thoughts on D23 in general as the official Disney fan club. All that coming up next. From the Bob Varley studio in Orlando, Florida, this is the Diz Unplugged. This is the Diz Unplugged, episode 759 for the week of December 2nd, 2014. The Diz Unplugged is brought to you by Dreams Unlimited Travel, experts at helping you plan the perfect Disney vacation. Visit them on the web at www.dreamsunlimitedtravel.com. Excuse me. Hello, folks, and welcome to the show. Coming to you not exactly live from the Bob Varley studio in Orlando, Florida. I'm your host, Pete Werner, joined at the table this week by my good friends John Magi, Kevin Close, Jenny Lynn Knopp, associate producer Craig Williams, and back by his lonesome in the production nook, our producer Dustin West. And just reminding everybody, the reason we're not coming out live right now is that as you're watching this, our entire team is on the Disney Magic for Podcast Cruise 5.0. And we are going to be doing a show on the ship, and that will be going up with our December 9th show next week. So we are actually recording this right after we did our live show last week, which was last hour for us right now.
We're in the future.
We're in the future. And so we'll ask you to bear with us for this little disruption in the normal schedule.
So did we have a good time on the cruise?
We had a great
incredible time.
On the
Our best cruise ever.
Actually, we're currently having a wonderful time on the cruise.
Right. We're
I can't
currently
keep track.
Wasn't Jodie's performance incredible?
She was wonderful.
very excited for Jodie Benson.
I have something kind of fun to tell you. She remembers the last time she performed for us, and she has said that she's going to do some very different stuff. And I'm not going to give away what she's going to do.
She's going to do an entire set of Green Day.
You were faster than I was. I was trying to come up with something. I'm very excited, very excited for Jodie Benson. So is Mom. Mom's excited to see her again. Mother fell in love with her. She was so great to my mother on the last cruise. Oh, my God. It was so cool. So we're obviously very excited about that. And, of course, for us right now, it's the day before Thanksgiving. So hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving.
This sounds like a math problem. Eventually, you're going to ask me who has the most oranges or something.
Just a couple of things in housekeeping, which I know were put into my script. The Disneyland edition of the Diz Unplugged goes up every Thursday. You can listen to them, You can stream them on DizUnplugged.com, or, of course, subscribe to them on iTunes. Just search for Diz Unplugged Disneyland edition. For this week's show, Nancy Johnson takes an in-depth look at holiday shopping at the Disneyland Resort, and Michael Bowling has the second part of his chat with author and historian David Lesjak about the Walt Disney Studios and their involvement in World War II.
I can't wait to listen to that. That
Have you seen the book?
Me. I've seen the original artwork.
Yeah.
So some of it's... I haven't seen the book. No, is it good?
I haven't bought it yet. I'm waiting to use my sister's holiday discount to pick it up over there, but the book looks amazing just from looking at the front
available
and back.
here in the Walt Disney World yet?
Yep. I saw it over at World of Disney. So.
Perfect. Bless you.
Thank you. So that's coming up. I don't think we really have... I don't know what the housekeeping for next week's going to be. So
You can still book the August trip to Backstage Magic and San Francisco. Kevin at Dreams Unlimited Travel. I'm done. I wish I had a mic.
The Caribbean is beautiful right now. It's just wonderful.
That's the Western Caribbean, so it's not as pretty as the Eastern. But
I like the Western Caribbean.
I don't. Give me St. Martin, St. Thomas any day over Mexico.
We'll change your birthday.
I wanted an Eastern Caribbean cruise. Should have made them change the itinerary.
You don't ever get anything that you want.
I know. I'm so put upon. So, yeah, we're going to have a discussion about D23. We're going to talk about the Destination D Attraction Rewind event that we attended last week. And we're also going to talk about D23 as a club, quote unquote, the official fan club for Disney fans is how they build themselves, which I've always kind of taken exception to. It just was arrogant. But then so was the idiot that was running it from the beginning. Can't remember his name. Let me look it up.
Apparently he was very memorable.
Well, Stephen Clark. Stephen Clark was the guy that launched it in 2009 and not particularly well liked. A lot of complaints with the way it was launched. I was certainly one of those people. I have not been a fan of D23, to be honest. I thought the way it was launched was awful. I thought it was really arrogant. And also not a great value because, D23 basically has a philosophy that Disney fans only live in Southern California. And so pretty much everything that goes on that relates to D23 happens in Southern California. And if you live in Southern California, I think D23 is a great deal. If you live anywhere else, it's a little bit more dicey, and that's why we wanted to have a larger discussion. This event, the Destination D Attraction Rewind event that took place last week, was my first D23 event. I actually rejoined D23 specifically to attend it because I wanted to kind of go into it with some fresh eyes and an open mind and see what I thought. See what I thought now. It was March of 2009 when it launched, so it's been more than 5 years. Haven't really given D23 a second look since then. So I wanted to go into this, 5 years later and see what I thought.
However, on the ramp up to D23, weren't you excited about it? We were so excited.
Oh, yeah, we both joined. Yeah. And we were going to get that magazine every once in a while, and they were going to send you gifts. Well, then the magazine stopped coming, or it came without the gifts, or you got the gifts and...
Well, I just want to give an overview of what the membership levels are and how much they cost and what you get with them, so then we can kind of go from there. There are two memberships. There's a general membership, which is free, which gets you exclusive merchandise, exclusive member content on D23.com, a subscription to the bi-weekly D23 Fanfare e-newsletter, and special promotional offers and discounts throughout the year. The D23 Gold membership is $79.99 a year, and that includes the Disney 23 quarterly publication. It's a very big, very well-produced magazine, very glossy, kind of glitzy magazine, almost coffee table. It's coffee table worthy.
Yeah. It is.
You get a membership card and certificate. Our 2014 annual membership gift, the Disney Faniversary 23-month calendar. Special member events are included with that. So that's kind of the difference between the free version and the $80 a year version. And, for a lot of people, it comes down to the events that make it worthwhile or not. Excuse me, I had a tickle in the back of my throat. Let me just somebody else talk for a second.
They also had a silver membership that you could do before. It was $40 to sign up. Literally just got an email last week that they have eliminated that one, I guess, because a lot of people just figured why not go with the extra 40 and you get the magazine.
Well,
because with this one, you just got the events.
Actually, what I was hearing, talked to a couple of people at the Attraction Rewind event. Mm-hmm. The rumor is they're doing away with the free membership.
Okay.
That they want everybody to pay, which I don't know how smart that is, but...
I get it from one perspective, but we'll talk about that in a little bit.
So the idea behind D23 was that this was to be the official Disney fan club. And, one of my first complaints, and it's still a complaint that I have, was that they did not look to reach out to or include the existing Disney fan community that's out there right now. Our website, other websites like ours, were basically very almost derided in some of the comments that were being made by Stephen Clark, who was the head. He stepped down in September, and I believe it's Adam Sanderson is now the head of D23. So that was part of the rub for me, was that there's been a lot of us out here doing communicating with, reaching out to Disney fans, organizing Disney fans, being part of the fan community. And the attitude was, you guys are peons. You're not important. I think had they reached out to and worked with the Disney fan community prior to launching this, they probably would have had a much more successful launch if they'd gotten us on board. As it was, a lot of people just were not big fans of this, and they have struggled with their membership. That was the other thing I was hearing this weekend, is that the numbers are not what they need them to be. And I think that's one of the reasons Stephen Clark is out and somebody else is in, because apparently it wasn't being run well.
Well, it is really expensive too. I mean, I was a charter year member. I bought the first magazine whenever they still sold them in Barnes and Noble, which now they don't do that anymore. But I bought it, decided I liked it, and I could just get the subscription for a whole year for an extra $15 on what I would pay to get them in store. So I just did that. I knew I wouldn't ever go to any of the events or get the special merchandise they had online. It was just more convenient for me. But, I mean, at that point, I was 20, 21. I didn't have enough money to pay another $80 for the next year to renew it. So I dropped out until now whenever I was stable. But, I mean, it's still a lot of money for essentially a magazine every 3 months.
Well, I signed up. John and I both signed up for it.
Yes, so did I. I was a charter member as well.
I got 2 of the 4 magazines.
Oh, really?
I never got another one. So I thought...
A lot of complaints about that magazine's not being delivered.
And the whole thing was, when I first signed up, they sent me a thing you could buy polo shirts and pens. And what was the...
$1,000 pen or something.
$1,000 pen. And you thought to yourself... the word stupid's not written on my forehead. I mean, I'm paying $80 to be able to buy polo shirts. Yeah. So to me, it just seemed like a big ripoff at first, and I'm going to be honest with you. The bitter taste, I forgot about it. I mean, every once in a while I would hear that there was an expo out in California, but it didn't really affect me.
That's become part of what D23 does. I believe it's every 2 years.
Yep.
An expo, the D23 Expo, is done out in California. Very, very big event. You were there for it last year along with Tom Bell and Michael Bowling.
Yeah, I was there as well.
Oh, were you out there covering it? Yeah, yeah, that's right.
I told somebody that's like they get the Summer Olympics and we get the Winter Olympics.
So they do that. Then they also do these Destination D events. I believe these are every year, aren't they?
It's on the... No, I think it's just on the off year that the expo isn't. Last time they did a Destination D, they did it in California too, so they got to double up. But I believe the one before was in Disney World as well. And then they do small pop-up events every now and then. Like whenever Epcot had its 30th anniversary, I believe D23 hosted the panels that they put on that day.
That was only after they were shamed.
Yeah.
By the Disney community for not doing anything for Epcot's 25th, that they threw something together. They also have done these Faniversary events.
Yep. Yeah, I was just going to say, I have my membership letter right here, and it talks about the things that you get with your membership. And it says for 2014, there's all new edition of D23's Disney Faniversary celebration that it's touring the country, bringing D23 fun to cities across the U.S. D23 members will be invited to attend member mixers at Disney stores in select cities. And then they talk about the special events in Disneyland and Walt Disney World.
This is a direct result of the criticism that if you didn't live in California or Florida, even, that there was nothing in D23 for you. So trying to do some of these more local events is part of their addressing that. But even what they do here in Florida is nominal, which is why I wanted to attend this Attraction Rewind, because, like I said, I was bitter and angry and jaded, and I said, like, okay, it's been 5 years, get over it. Go in with fresh eyes and see, keep my mind open. And I got to tell you something. I don't know that I'm turned around on D23 in general, but this event was amazing.
It was.
This event was amazing. Now, we had 4 of us there, Dustin and I and Jenny Lynn and Craig. I was able to get 2 Top of the World tickets. They do Top of the World at all these events. They're $1,000 a person for the weekend. You get like early access to things and reserved seating, and they do a special event. They did a special event on Friday night that Craig and I attended. And then the general admission was $190, I believe it was, $190 a person. For one of the things they do at these events, which is a big hit with the fans and with me, is they do the Mickey's of Glendale pop-up stores. And you know Chris, the manager that we always deal with when we're out at Mickey's of Glendale,
Yep.
fantastic lady. She's the one that does these, and she was there. We were chatting with each other. And people were asking me, because we were running into a lot of folks, a lot of listeners, viewers, and people were asking me, so how does this compare to the real Mickey's of Glendale? And I said, you know what? It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Nice selection of stuff. They had a big selection of stuff from Walt Disney Imagineering, the stuff you would see going into Mickey's of Glendale at Imagineering that we've seen. But they also had stuff that was exclusive and specific to this event. And that's the stuff I was interested in because I'm going to be out at Mickey's of Glendale in a few weeks. So, and plus I've been to Mickey's of Glendale like 8 times now, and I have closets full of Walt Disney Imagineering stuff. So I really wanted the exclusive stuff, and there was some great stuff. Lots of pins. Some of these pins are going for $300 and $400 on eBay right now. Now, whether or not they're going to sell at that price, I don't know. But they're being listed like that. So some real exclusive stuff in there. And, you know, what I said to everybody was shop first, ask questions later. Grab it. Worry about what you're going to do with it after. Because for Top of the World, you got in 2 hours before everybody else. So we had first pick of everything, which was a nice perk, especially with limited edition pins. And like they had these great Adventurers Club messenger bags.
Yes, I like the messenger bags.
That, you know, were gone, I think, pretty much after the Top of the World folks got them. They had very few of them. So that's
Did you get one?
I did. Actually, it's one of the things I will be auctioning off on the cruise for Give Kids the World. That and a lot of this exclusive stuff that I picked up, I got extra.
Well, you're not the only one that feels that way because the lines to get into the store were very long at times.
Yeah.
Like unbearably long.
Yeah, exactly. So that was one of the perks. Like I said, they had a room set up for Top of the World folks with coffee and Danish and snacks and things like that. You could go and wait. When it was time, they would come and get you and bring you in ahead of everybody else into the main room, and you could get your, you know, have first pick of your seats in the reserved area. The reserved area was all up in front, so that was very nice. Then Friday night, they did a special event for Top of the World folks that was a private ride on Carousel of Progress with Tony Baxter and Marty Sklar. And what was really cool about that was, you know, both of them got up and talked a little bit about the ride. This was the day that was focused on the 64 World's Fair. Everything that was done at the conference that day was all about the 64 World's Fair, and it was absolutely fascinating. Amazing, amazing presentations that were done. So they're talking about Carousel of Progress and the 64 World's Fair and their involvement with Carousel of Progress and some things to look at that you may not have noticed. And then we do the ride, and then once it's done, they moved the ride to, what was it, the scene, the 50s scene, the 40s scene?
It was the 1900s scene. They wanted to just leave it.
No, it wasn't the 1900s. It was, they moved it.
We only moved it once, one segment.
I got to look at my pictures. I don't think so. I think it was the 40s. I'm almost positive, and I think they moved it more than one. No, I'm going to look at my
The
pictures.
40s is the one where that's got that booth, you know, and the...
And they got the fancy washing machine.
Yeah, the
Right.
40s is the third scene. We didn't move that far around.
That's my favorite scene.
It's my favorite one, too.
Is he holding a fan in the photo?
No, that's the...
No.
That would be the
right.
second
It might
scene.
be the first one. Jeez, how many pictures do I have on?
No, I like the 40s scene because my mom always points out every time we do it that the refrigerator in that scene is the one that she actually had whenever she was growing up. So
In the
I love it
she always has
because
that reminder.
my grandparents used to watch me a lot when I was young. They lived in Miami Springs, and we would go to visit their neighbors, and their neighbor's kitchen pretty
You're right.
much looked like
No,
that
you're right.
exactly.
You're right. It's the 1900s. Why did I think it was? I don't know. Anyway, they moved this to that scene and then stopped it and allowed all of us to get up and take pictures with Marty and Tony Baxter with that as the backdrop.
I was going to say and take souvenirs. Now I'm jealous.
So that was
cool.
That was very, very, very cool. And then they had a boat for us to take us over to Fort Wilderness. We went to the area where Mickey's Backyard Barbecue was held.
This is all the top of the world.
This is all top of the world.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they had a great. At first I thought they kind of cheaped out on the food because it was chicken and beans and pulled pork, and I'm like, okay, you know what? For $1,000, you need to up this. Where's some steak? But I got to tell you, the food was delicious.
It was excellent.
The food was outstanding. How good it was. And, of course, there's Tony Baxter over there having dinner, and there's Marty Sklar over there. I think Bob Gurr was hanging around, too, wasn't he?
I didn't see him there, but what amazed me was that Tony Baxter was actually just sitting literally in the middle of the table.
Yeah.
Anyone could sit
Anyone can sit
by
next to
his
him.
group, right next to him. He was just there, and he waited till every single person went through. He stood basically right at the end of the buffet.
Yeah.
And so everyone got to see him going past, and then once everyone was finished, then he finally was humble enough to go and get himself some chicken
Yeah.
and beans.
Yeah.
How many people do you think were at that event?
Say, from what I heard, there was 1,500 general admission tickets and 150 top of the world. That was what I heard.
Yeah.
I didn't do a head count.
Yeah.
But I would say
It was about
150
150, yeah.
sounds about right for what I saw, and Friday was all about the 64 World's Fair.
Saturday.
Yeah.
Or Saturday. I'm
Friday
sorry.
was just the
Saturday,
event.
right. Saturday was all about the 64 World's Fair, and I was blown away. Blown away by this presentation, by these presentations.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about a little bit about what went on that day.
Well, they started, it was all about the World's Fair. You walked in, and the room was set up very nicely. Something that I thought was a little bit interesting, though, in each of the corners of the rooms, they had a poster of an extinct attraction that's no longer up and running, and the ride vehicle that was a part of the attraction, which was very nice. But they had it all. They had all these like flowers and greenery stuff set up around it, and I couldn't help but feel like it reminded me of a funeral wake.
It did kind of look like
It
that.
did.
You're right, it did.
It absolutely did. Where you walk in and there's the funeral wreaths and that type of thing. That was the feel I got from it. So I thought that was different. Maybe appropriate because they're not in existence anymore, but
Do you
odd.
remember what they were?
Yeah, I have pictures of them. They were the Skyway, Snow White's Scary Adventures,
Mr. Toad.
Mr. Toad,
And then
there was
had
also
a
the
Small
rocket
World doll.
Yeah, yes,
But-
there was a small, which I guess is not extinct,
Yeah.
but they had a big picture of the World's Fair behind that to, kind of emphasize its presence at the World Fair. And then they also had the rocket jet out in the lobby area.
And then a giant orange bird.
Yep, and a giant orange bird, all with
Apropos
these
of nothing,
big.
I have an It's a Small
plants
World
and-
tree in my house, so that should tell you something.
I should also note that the things that you just mentioned are pretty much the only things we were allowed to take photos of the
Right.
entire
Yes.
weekend.
And then they also, not to get too far off, but then they also did a Treasures of the Archives there. They do that at the expos as well. And then if you ever get to go to the studios, you can see the archives if you're lucky enough, like on the ABD. But then they had, in the archives, they had some of the memorabilia, like records from the 64's World's Fair and some of the plastic molds that you used to be able to get made. They had the actual machine there, one of the only ones in existence still, and they turned it on to show how a mold would get made.
Do you want to know what? That's my one, other than It's a Small World, that's my memory of the 64 World's Fair. As you were waiting to get on the bus, they had what looked like a giant jukebox.
Yeah. Yep.
And you put your money in, and there was the attraction with the dinosaurs at the World's Fair, and you got to make an injection mold dinosaur.
Yeah.
And I got what's the one with all the spikes down the middle of its back? A
Stegosaurus.
Stegosaurus. I got a Stegosaurus, and my sense memory is that I can remember that smell and the fact that we got on the bus and that was really warm.
That's so cool.
And this was in New York City, and I
Yeah.
lived in Albany. So on the bus ride back, I remember holding that dinosaur, and it stayed warm for a really long time.
I think
what
that's
I
why
remember.
I don't think you were allowed to purchase something from the mold. They just let you see them, and that's because of the
They-
danger of burns,
Well,
right?
They
they-
were really hot when they gave it to you.
What
Yeah.
they did, we missed it because we had to leave right before the end, but after the first day was over, they had put stickers under some of the seats, and they made, I think, like 5 or 6 of the molds. Wow.
Were they
if
the
you had one-
dinosaurs?
They were
Mickey
Mickey
Mouses.
ones.
Oh, okay. I got a dinosaur.
But whoever had the sticker under their seat could actually get one of them. So apparently, I mean, the room, they set up more seats than they ever possibly needed. So apparently people were throwing chairs trying to find where these stickers were. But then in that room also they had a Figment prop. They had some World of Motion props, and then one other one, I can't think of what it was, but it was a nice little side exhibit that you could go in and take pictures of.
They had
too.
a couple nice things. They also had a room where you could go in and, or was that just for the last day with the Communicore?
Oh yeah, and then they also they had these iPads and computers set up where you could use the World Key program from
Communicore.
Whenever that was first opened. Some guy from Pixar, I can't remember his name, actually, he's so devoted to Communicore that he recreated all of the World Key systems from stuff he found in the archives, and then some of the games that you could also play there too. The games were awful.
They were terrible.
World Key,
but it was fun.
Was weird, but yeah, it was kind of.
What's World Key?
It's kind of like a precursor to a smartphone almost. You would go into Communicore, and it had all of Epcot Center on the map, and you could get guide information on what the
I
rides
remember
were,
that.
and then
I'm
go.
sorry. I thought World Key was where you talked to a cast member and made a dining
reservation. That was part of it.
You
though.
could, yeah, that was part of it as well. So it was all the system.
That was my
you could get ride
favorite.
information. All
I
that.
loved that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the whole computer program and then a few of the games that you could play there, they had it set up so you could go back and experience that again in a separate room on iPads and, bigger monitor screens, which was neat. But anyway, back to do we need to keep on track?
Yeah, back to day one. The first one was
Bill Cotter, and he talked about the 1964 World's Fair, not
This is
the
a
Disney.
historian, right? Yes.
Yeah, not the Disney attractions. He focused on the fair as a whole, and
Fascinating.
really, it truly was. I mean, I wasn't born at that time, so I it's not like I'm going down memory. I'm not going down memory lane or anything, but even. Without having that personal connection to it, I was fascinated by what was being presented.
One of the interesting things, I collect stuff from the 1964 World's Fair, and the problem is most of it's ephemera. There's not a lot that's made to last. There was nothing high-end about it. It was marketed to the masses, which I think is kind of interesting. It's very hard to find things in good shape.
Well, and Bill Cotter, actually, the guy who did the presentation, he collects photos from it, even if they're not his own. I think he said he had 22,000 photos
He did.
from all around the World's Fair, and I mean, we got to see them.
And
he
his
went
family
through,
wasn't in any of them, he said.
but
And they're all, I'm looking at them now, they're all online. He's created a site specifically, it's called World's Fair Photos.
I'm going to have to go look.
.com, and it's not just a 64 World's Fair, but you can select 64 World's Fair, and I'm looking at his pictures. These are his family pictures from like the International Pavilion.
It was the most all-inclusive look at the World's Fair that I've ever seen. Now, I didn't know that much about the World's Fair going into it. I had only heard reference of it really in how it related to some of the Disney attractions, but I never really got into the history of it all. Now I'm fascinated. The way this guy presented this stuff, I am
I agree.
absolutely fascinated, and it gave me a whole new appreciation of
It
It had the
completely
same
did.
effect on me as well. I mean, I just didn't have that much exposure to it before, but now I'm far more interested in it.
Well, the only thing I knew about the 64 World's Fair was that my mother was pregnant with me when she went and rode It's a Small World. So It's a Small World has become like a thing for my mom and I. We always try and ride it when we're in the Magic Kingdom. for that reason. That I did it in the '64 World's Fair. I was just in utero at the time. So.
I loved having the bigger picture, though, of the companies that were involved outside of Disney and the attractions that were there outside of Disney, and he got into like the layout of it and the road system that was built and how the structures came up and weren't necessarily taken down right away, and what remains and what doesn't remain, and all of it. It was so fascinating.
Yeah, and a big part of that too was learning that Disney wasn't the only thing there, which is what a lot of Disney fans assume by it. But
was that it was like the Disney '64 World's Fair?
Yeah, but they even said that in the top 5 attractions that were there, most of the time it was the 4 Disney attractions that were in it. But that wasn't always the case. Sometimes other things did pop in and were more successful. But just hearing about a lot of them and getting to know a little bit more, I think everyone's seen the New York pavilion from the 2 towers that are in Men in Black and stuff. And I mean, that's still over at Universal Studios Florida.
And they're still standing.
Yeah, and they're still standing. So it was cool to actually get a little more insight about all that.
Do you know what else I found really fascinating is these other elements and how they you can see their influence in Epcot. And yes. I had no idea.
Yes,
I had no idea.
Dustin had said that it gives him a whole new appreciation for Epcot after having watched some of those presentations.
If you're interested in the World's Fair, this is not about the '64 World's Fair. It's about the Chicago World's Fair in the '30s. There's a book called The Devil in the White City, and it's all about the building of the Chicago World's Fair. Walt Disney's father was one of the building workers. He helped build buildings there. It's a murder mystery that takes place during it, so there's some fictionalized account, but the facts part of it is about the building of the World's Fair, and it's very much similar to the 1964 World's Fair and the way it was built.
I also think it was interesting how much money these lost.
Oh, yeah.
These were huge money losers, these World's Fairs. That's why they're not really done much anymore.
But what's fascinating is what's come out of them, because they picked the best of the best. Kellogg's Corn Flakes were introduced at a World's Fair. They were...
so were Belgian waffles, apparently.
Buying sliced bread was introduced. So it's fascinating. And I mean, things that they thought were fascinating during the 30s World's Fair, they brought people from Africa and set up an African village that you could tour as a museum or like an exhibit. And imagine today putting somebody from another country on exhibit in Epcot. And it just wouldn't be done.
Right.
So it's fascinating to see what these used to be.
Yeah, it was great. Well, after Bill Cotter, Marty Sklar and Bob Gurr discussed Disney's role in the World's Fair. And let me tell you, I don't know, I had never seen the two of them present before, but they were hysterical.
They were great.
I mean, just the content was awesome, obviously, but the way that they presented it, it was very entertaining, held your attention.
I was also really amazed at the level of detail Bob Gurr still remembers from that time, doing the Ford Motor Speedway thing, and talking about specific problems they were having with specific technical things on the cars and what he needed to do to fix it. This was 50 years ago, and this man remembers it like it was yesterday. He's got an amazing mind.
Not only that, but he still has a sense of humor
he's
that is
hysterical.
It's just, he was great. I just wanted to wrap him up and put him in my pocket. He was so adorable. I love that. He was the highlight of the event for me.
So, and then that event looked at all 4 of them, but didn't go into amazing detail, because then for the rest of the day, well, they had a couple other things in there, but then for the rest of the day, it was spent mostly going over the 4 actual pavilions that were there. The Magic Skyway, It's a Small World.
Great moments with
Mr. Lincoln and Carousel of Progress. So that happened. In between there was a small little presentation with Stacia Martin where she talked about the music, which was just a Cliff Notes version. I mean, it was 20 minutes long, but she could have talked for 2 hours. And that was one of the best parts.
Just a side note, Stacia Martin is a Disney historian, Disney cast member, an animator with Disney. And for most of our ABD trips, our Backstage Magic trips, on the last night, the farewell dinner, Stacia Martin was set up in the back with an easel, and they'd call one family up at a time, and she would say, "What character would you like me to draw for you?" And you'd give her a character, and she could do pretty much anything.
She couldn't draw the castle, and she couldn't draw Walt.
Right. But outside of that, everything was pretty much fair game. And she would draw these things, and while she was drawing them, would tell you a story about that character or about something, or engage you somehow. Unbelievable, unbelievable, unbelievable.
I have rallied
And
begged.
they've stopped it. They've stopped it. They took her off the tour, so to speak. And
I have begged them to bring her back.
I hope they do. For am I going to have her in December?
Not that I know of. I'm trying.
Highly unlikely.
She again was fantastic as a presenter, just such a great personality, held your attention, and I mean the content
Brilliant
of course
woman.
was good.
Brilliant
Yeah, you just
But as
really latched
charming
onto
and
her.
as approachable as you can possibly
Yes.
Absolutely, absolutely. That definitely came across. So anyway, that was pretty much the first day where they broke down the separate attractions one by one, music.
Like, they did great moments with Mr. Lincoln, and they brought in Jack Gladish, who did the animation on Lincoln's face and his hands, and he was very old, and it took a lot of coaching the answers out of him, but it was still cool to see. And then after that, they did Magic Skyway. So Bob Gurr came back out, and he was hysterical once again, going through how they did the entire design and structure, and talked about the pre-show, seeing all the different Ford cars, no matter where you were in the world, and talking about the music that was in there too. It was incredible. Carousel of Progress was good. I don't remember who. Oh, Marty Sklar was in on that one. I don't remember much from the actual presentation. It was good, and It's a Small World. Alice Davis was supposed to be there,
But she was sick.
So she couldn't come. So they had Bill Sullivan step in, and he was like a front of the line cast member who then went to become kind of in management, and he was sent to the World's Fair to help run the operation in it and get it moving to the level that it could possibly be exceeding the most and get the most capacity through there, and then coming back and help implementing the same system into Disneyland. And so for attractions cast member at one point in time, that was one of the coolest ones for me, just to hear about those stories.
And he had an amazing mustache.
His mustache was epic.
I hated it.
It was like this far sticking straight out. But then they also ended off the day with Tomorrowland, a look into the movie and the production elements that went into recreating the World's Fair. That's the Brad Bird movie that's coming out is sometime next year. I think summer maybe.
Isn't that George Clooney?
George Clooney's going to be in it. It's going to be a really good movie, I think. My opinion.
Remains to be seen, but if George Clooney's in it, it's got a leg up. And Brad Bird.
Yeah.
So,
Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol.
Oh, the first day ended at 6. It went from 8 to 6, basically, or 8:30 to 6, I believe it was.
I would have enjoyed this. I would have.
It was fascinating. It was really fascinating, and of course, D23 has access to all the legends, all the archives, all that stuff, which certainly makes for a presentation like this very, very worthwhile.
When we visit Imagineering, they take us into the art room, and they show us certain things that are on the wall and things like that. Twice now I've stood next to file cabinets that say original 1964 World's Fair artwork, and all I keep thinking is, please let there be a power failure.
And because this is the anniversary, Imagineering is all decked out.
That's right. Imagineering was all... And it was fun, because as we walked by the glass cases with all the memorabilia, John and I went, oh, we have that? Oh, we have that? Oh, we have that? But...
So it's great that they're celebrating this.
It is. I'm so glad that this stuff was saved.
I actually forgot. There was one more that was in there. I believe Becky Klein did an overview of Disney attractions that were supposed to get there to the World's Fair and didn't. Coke was supposed to sponsor a tiki room type attraction, and it completely fell apart. Coke didn't want to be involved with the attraction in that kind of general sense. They also, I believe, didn't want great moments with Mr. Lincoln because they thought everyone was going to walk out of there crying for how good and moving it was.
They felt like that wasn't suitable for their brand. They wanted their brand, the Coke brand, to be very uplifting and cheerful, and they felt that everyone crying because they were so moved by the beauty of the Lincoln attraction just wasn't a good fit for what they wanted to do with their brand.
So, again, this was a fascinating look at the 64 World's Fair and Walt Disney's part in it. And I agree with Dustin that, I I wasn't particularly focused on the 64 World's Fair. Wasn't something I went to like consciously. After this, I'm fascinated by it. Want to learn more. Want to collect more. Just absolutely got me so interested.
There is a TWA poster from the 1964 World's Fair that I covet. Just want you to say.
So that was the Saturday. The Sunday event. Why don't we talk just briefly about what was there Sunday?
Sunday was focused on kind of the attraction rewind portion. So it started in the morning with Becky Cline and Stacia Martin again, and they went over past Disney attractions. So they spent a lot of time talking about the Opera House before. Great moments with Mr. Lincoln came in and talked about how it was used to show off Babes in Toyland, the entire set, and
then into the Mickey Mouse Club.
And then Mickey Mouse Club with live broadcasts happening in there, and then just went around to all the lands and talked about some of the stuff that wasn't there before, like Monsanto over in Tomorrowland with Adventures Through Inner Space and the house. So that was all really cool. But then from there, it went into Disney World. And that's where most of the focus was for the rest of the day. And the next one was Tony Baxter, Charlie Ridgway, and Jason Grant talking about some of the attractions that are no longer here.
Incredible presentation.
I was going to say that was another highlight. That presentation was excellent. Jason Grant was amazing.
Jason Grant was fantastic.
I feel like he should be a Disney stand-up comic. He's just really funny.
So funny. He's an Imagineer. And big fan, just big geeky fan, and that just comes out of him.
Highly entertaining.
And really did a great job, especially you're sharing the stage with, especially with Tony Baxter. Yeah. Charlie Ridgway was awesome as well.
Monsanto was the sponsor of America the Beautiful when Disney World opened.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Now, and
again, apropos to nothing.
Yeah, so that was cool. They showed some awesome pictures from like the Contemporary being built, and then 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. But that was one of the ones we were most looking forward to, and it really paid off. I forgot at the start of the day before the first presentation, they actually showed us Magic Journeys. They restored the footage from the old attraction and showed it to everyone.
Was that the Kodak thing?
Yeah.
It was the completely creepy 3D movie where, you know, the witch comes out and, you know, electrocutes your nose. And
it was bizarre.
But I just want to point out, though, that Tony Baxter also spent time talking about being a cast member, opening Walt Disney World, working on the construction sites, you know, being a part of, you know, showing up at the Magic Kingdom when it was a dirt mound.
Yeah.
Breathtakingly amazing presentation. Hearing him share his personal memories of different little things that happened and people he got to work with. And I got to tell you, he is he's truly a legend. He is truly a Disney legend. I was blown away by the stuff that he shared,
especially the toast. Whenever
yes,
that was I'll admit I cried at that part, but one of the things that excited me is when they got to talk about Horizons, from Epcot, and it was just really cool. I just geeked out like in a big way because they really talked a lot about Horizons, but at the end they showed the
video footage
of all the closing scenes that you could select, which was really cool. My favorite attraction, hands down, ever at Walt Disney World anywhere was Horizons. So that was very, very cool. And again, stuff that, you know, you get when you own the Disney archives.
They did have a lot of really cool stuff. I mean, we talk about the cost of D23 being kind of, you know, over the top, but this event, it was so fantastic, and to be able to experience those things from the past in the present, once again, you'll never be able to do it anywhere else. And it kind of justifies it.
I will say that going in, again, I work to keep an open mind. I said there's probably nothing these people are going to do that's going to make me feel like this was worth $1,000. And I got to say that I do not feel I wasted that money. I do not feel I wasted that money. I'm surprised that I'm saying that. At $190,
Oh,
For general admission,
Absolutely.
this was
Without a
a
doubt.
bargain.
Yeah.
A
Well,
bargain. To hear these people, see these presentations, get a chance, especially the 64 World's Fair stuff, that alone, that day alone, was worth the $190 right there.
and then we got a few nice things in our gift bags when we checked in.
Gift bags were really cool. For general admission, what did you guys get?
Well, we got a magic band that was specially made for the event, and then we got this, cute little pin. That
Tower of the Four
Tower
Winds.
of the Four Winds pin that
From the 64 World's
Kevin's
Fair.
coveting over on the other side of the table. And then there was this neat little thing.
This was cool.
They gave each of us a stamp, and when you would log into the D23 site on
You
your
didn't even
phone,
have to log in. Just you had to go to the D23
just
site.
pull up the site on your phone and you put the stamp on the screen, and it unlocked all of this very exclusive information that video footage and things of that nature that also went along with the presentations that they were giving that day. And you can't get it. You can't access that without this little stamp thing.
It's really cool.
I've
never seen it before.
It was nice. They do make it feel like it's worthwhile because they do give you things that you can't get outside of the event.
Yeah.
Now, for the Top of the World, folks, we got everything that you got. Plus, we got a Tower of the Four Winds, like, one of those etched crystal things. I don't know, like a paperweight. You're looking confused. Don't you remember that?
Yeah.
What else was in there?
you said the Disney Infinity.
Oh yes, the Disney Infinity 2.0 Sorcerer Mickey, which is not out yet. Which, right there, you had me at that because I was very, very excited about that.
And then different H2O products.
Some H2O products. It was a very good gift bag. Plus a nice D23 Destination D Rewind tote bag that everything came in.
Which has also been on eBay.
Yeah, that's on eBay. That's going for like $40, which I don't get. But overall, I felt this was absolutely worth the money, both for Top of the World and for general admission. But I want to ask the question about D23 in general. I'm still on, I'm on the fence as to whether or not this club is worth joining. If they start doing more stuff like that down here, yeah, I can see it making sense. But if I'm in Chicago, what is there for me with D23?
There's not much. The whole culture of fandom has really, it's been going to bigger and bigger levels, and it's almost getting to be a complete pop culture phenomenon at this point. Star Trek conventions, people would go from all across the country to get to these conventions. Comic-Con, that's a rite of passage for comic book fans and movie fans everywhere out there. They'll travel to San Diego for it. So I know, living in Orlando, we as Disney fans and wannabe D23 members want something to come here, but at the same time, everyone around the world for these other events will go to all these different places to do it. So yeah, I wish I wouldn't have to travel to go see an expo or to do a special event that they announce, but at the same time, in the kind of fandom world, you have to accept that you might have to travel every now and then if this is really that important to you.
Well, on the Dis Unplugged Facebook page, we asked folks what their impressions of D23 are, and I'm going to read some of them. Ethan Allen, who we got a chance to meet this weekend.
I love
nice
his
guy.
furniture.
Here are my thoughts. I have many, and I have been a D23 member since day one. First, the bad. You do not get what you pay for. It's too high priced for a simple magazine and access to purchase additional tickets to events. D23 is too focused on events in California. There are a few in Florida and almost non-existent anywhere else. When I lived in Seattle, it was nearly pointless for me to be a member. On the same note, there is nothing for people outside of the USA. How is it even a fan club for them? They try to make digital content behind a gated site only for members of benefit. Honestly, Disney should be making it all free without needing to be a member. D23 has changed a lot over the years. When it was first run, Jeffrey Epstein was the face of it with Stephen Clark running it. Jeffrey used to do videos weekly about all the upcoming stuff, kind of like Dis Unplugged, and it was great. But they stopped doing that. All magazines used to come with collectible gifts, my favorite being patches, and they stopped doing that as well. They have slowly taken away things and made the club more event-driven. Calling it a fan club is incorrect. It is more a premium membership to Disney stuff, kind of like a premium annual pass.
I have to agree with this.
There are some fans in D23 and even cast who have a very elitist attitude. You see them at every event. It's a turnoff for me that Disney allows certain groups to feel more important than others, but that's life, I guess. Too many of the events are just panels where you sit there and listen to people talk. I wish Disney would do some events where you get to see behind the scenes in the parks or something special besides just sitting there all day. Here are the good things. Some things they offer that are free are movie previews. I have seen tons of movies with my family of 4 for free weeks before they came out. $1 Million Arm and the Alexander and the Very Bad Day movie are 2 recent ones. Great benefit if you live near a theater that offers this. I didn't even know they did that. The events they put on are well done. Good speakers and presentations, sometimes with a lot of background and upcoming previews that you don't normally get to see. But if you don't have a premium ticket, aka the Sorcerer's ticket at the D23 Expo, for example, then you miss out on a lot of really cool things. And the premium tickets can be expensive. I love the Mickeys of Glendale shopping and exclusive merchandise they sometimes have. The magazines are gorgeous and well done. As for my thoughts on Destination D, I was much more bored than I was at the D23 Expo. At the Expo, there's a ton to see and do, huge show floor with a lot of stuff going on. The main reason I am still a member is because I love Disney and I want to access all these special events. The downsides just aren't enough to stop me from wanting to go. Some of the events they have are really cool and offer a lot that you can't get in the parks. Plus, I can afford the membership, but it's definitely not a perfect fan club for me by any means.
Well, I think that's kind of what I was going to say when we talk about our attitude towards D23. This event absolutely was worthwhile. I think if I hold any resentment towards D23, it's the message that, when it first launched, it was would be the club for the true fan, and the idea that only the true fans are the ones with money is basically how it kind of comes across. I resent that a little bit.
Yeah.
And you're paying for access to pay for more things, and that just seems kind of like a screwed up concept. Obviously, it's working for them, and it's not going to stop because people are paying for the ability to pay for other things. But I think that's kind of the part that rubs me the wrong way. It's just that underlying message that the true Disney fans are the ones that can afford to be it. But with that being said, this as well as the D23 Expo last year have been the only events that I've been to, but they've been really good. They've been really great events, and I've enjoyed both of them.
Well, if you really are a fan, you're willing to pay what it takes to become a fan. If you're a collector, you're obviously not going to expect people to just give you stuff for free in order to continue that. You always pay for everything.
I can understand that anymore. In terms of like the events. Of course, you're going to pay for the events, but when it comes to information, I don't feel like that should be something you have to pay for. To learn about history and the things that happened. Why should you have to pay for the stories?
Yeah, I do understand that. One thing that really sticks out to me is, as a D23 member and going to these events, I genuinely feel like I'm in a room with people who actually understand why I love Disney. If I go into the Magic Kingdom or any of the other parks with people that are in the same mindset as me, we get the same thing out of it. However, for the most part, you're walking around with a bunch of tourists who are just there for their family vacation. They're not there looking at the stuff that we look at and appreciate. And at these events, everyone in the room is there for the exact same reason, to see these things and to hear these things. And so I know that if I'm getting excited, if I embarrass myself crying about a story, that there's other people in the room sitting there with those exact same emotions. That's stuff that just doesn't happen in the parks. That's stuff that happens in this club and stuff that happens on like the Adventures by Disney trip.
But it doesn't happen just at a D23 event. You'll get that on the Dis boards.
Yeah, I cry when I walk into Walt's One Man Dream at the studio. I don't know that I need anybody else around me to be crying as well. It's kind of like...
Ultimately, you're paying for the service of the event, and I can understand that concept.
It develops a camaraderie.
I absolutely understand what you're saying and feeling that, I liked that feeling this weekend that I was around. I could just geek out. I could just geek out and not have to feel self-conscious about it because everybody around me is geeking out at the same time.
Well, don't we feel that way at every Diz event that we have?
Absolutely. But this, it's different for me when it's not, me organizing it, or it's not me, owning the company that organizes it. Just kind of going in there and being a fan and being with other fans, having these, nothing that we're going to do is going to match. No Diz event is going to match having Marty Sklar and Tony Baxter and Bob Gurr talk about the '64 World's Fair and what their role in it was. So having things like that, this was it was a great experience. I'm reading a lot of what people are posting on Facebook, and the theme that emerges are the same complaints and considerations that have been there for a while. That if you don't live in Southern California, there's really nothing for you, especially for international folks. Ashley Fallis says, I'd absolutely love to be a member, but as someone living in the UK, the cons vastly outweigh the pros. A few people mentioned how back when D23 started, it was good for discounts and that magical feeling. But like John says on the show pretty much every Tuesday, that feeling seems to be fading. Somebody from Australia was talking about how she's got to pay double because of the cost of the mailing. They charge extra because they have to mail to the magazine in Australia. So she basically pays double and really doesn't get access to the events or anything like that because she lives in Australia. And she's a charter member, by the way. I've been Vanita Jones. I've been a D23 member for only 2 years, so I don't have a frame of reference for how it's changed. I like the magazine and wish I could attend more events, but they are usually not conveniently located for me. I came from Texas to attend this event. As a lover of almost all things Disney and a history buff, much of the attraction Rewind was appealing. I enjoyed seeing the old photos and artifacts and hearing some great stories. However, the highlight of my trip was, meeting me on Saturday morning. Met a lot of folks. I'm sorry, I didn't pre-read that. That wasn't intentional. I'm just kind of going through scanning these. But we did meet a lot of folks, a lot of listeners, a lot of viewers at the event.
I just wanted to ask a question in general because maybe I have some ignorance on this, and maybe you guys who were at the expo last year would know the answer to this. For me, the issue is less of a geography thing. It's more about what do they have for fans of Walt Disney World versus Disneyland. At the expo, was there more focus on the Disneyland attractions than the Disney World attractions? Whether it's hosted in Los Angeles or hosted in Orlando, that doesn't matter to me. The appeal of it, I'm a Disney World fan. What is there for me?
The past expo in 2013 wasn't focused on really attractions, more or less. It was focused on Imagineering because Imagineering just celebrated an anniversary. So it focused on a lot of both. So Tony Baxter was there and did an attraction Rewind to Journey into Imagination, the original, showing video clips and recreations of that. So they had that, and then they had Jason Sorrell there talking about a lot of Disney World stuff since he's one of the Imagineers located in Florida, actually. So there was a decent balance. I can't speak for the other years because I never went, but I would say it was 50-50. So
other than just the geographic problem, you feel like it's fair to Walt Disney World?
Yeah.
Okay. That's what I was curious about.
The overall for me, I'll say that while I liked Destination D, and I am looking forward to the expo next year. I plan on being out there for the expo. As of right now, I don't think the D23 membership itself is worth it. Unless you are in Southern California. I don't think that's changed. And until it does, I think they've got a problem on their hands. And they've got to figure out something of value to give people that don't live in Florida, don't live in California, who want to join this, something to make it worthwhile. And you've got to do better than a magazine. And I don't know what that is. I'm hoping that with Adam Sanderson coming in to run D23, that maybe he has some ideas and he can come up with something. But decide for yourself. Head out to our Facebook page, facebook.com/DizUnplugged, and check out the list of or all the comments that people have made about D23 and what they think of it, both pros and cons. Although I'm seeing mostly cons here. I'm not seeing an awful lot of pro. But, you know, I will say, though, that for these events, it was absolutely worth me getting a membership. It was absolutely worth me spending the money I spent to go to it. I can't say that I walked away feeling ripped off. In fact, I walked away feeling like I got my money's worth. And so at the end of the day, I can't say much more for it than that I would absolutely do this again. And I would like to see them do it more. I would like to see them do it. You know what? Do one of these in New York City. Do one of these in Chicago. Do one of these in Seattle. Do one of these in Dallas. If you want to do a road show, do these weekends. You're going to make a ton of money. You're going to get a ton of subscribers because now something tangible is coming to their city. Something that they can go and do and have this experience without necessarily... Obviously, you can't do it in every town and city across the country. So you know what? Pick the big hubs. Everybody can get to a big hub with less effort than it would take them to get to Anaheim or Orlando, depending on where they live. So, I mean, maybe that's something they could look at doing. I don't think Marty and Bob and Tony have much going on right now. They're retired. So I think, you know, you're going to pay them. They're going to be happy to show up. But you know what? I think if they don't start reaching out to fans in other areas and start respecting that there are fans in other places other than Southern California, they've got to get rid of that Disneyland elitist bullcrap that this club has been ripe with from the beginning.
Yeah.
That if you're really you're not a real Disney fan if you don't live in Southern California. If you're not about Disneyland, then you're not a real fan. So we'll see, but interested to hear more of what you think. Head out to Facebook, let us know. And that is going to do it for our episode this week. We hope you enjoyed it. We'll be back with you again next time with another edition of the Diz Unplugged. Thanks for being with us, everyone. And remember, stay out of the damn lakes. Bye.